Okay, let's see if this is better than it was yesterday. See if there are any last second additions. Here to the questions. I only have 1 hour to do this because I've got to run down and grab my daughter from the bus. Okay. Hi, Chris. I hope it's working this time. So let's see what we get there. Let me check my settings over here. Boy, I find that auto iris very annoying. Okay, it looks like the bit rate is all good. Looks like it started and hasn't stopped. That's also good. I'm not seeing the pausing. Okay. So, the difference between today and yesterday is that I had a higher resolution on the input side, and I was scaling down on the output side in the hope that first the local recording would record better. But I was low on hard drive space, so I guess that's possible the reason why I had such strange issues. But who knows if that was it or I had too many things open in the background. Anyway, so I've gone back to my previous setting, which was 640 by 360, which is a quarter of 720p resolution, because it's half vertically and half horizontally, and that seems to be much more reliable, at least with the connection I have right now. As I said, I'm planning on upgrading that as time goes by. So I'm glad to hear that it is working a little bit better this time than it was last time. I had my doubts on... Okay, there we go. I see myself on there. I will make that go away. And let's scroll down. Okay. It's good to know that that's a decent resolution. I think there's a piece of it that's this camera. There is a utility that I can get that's from the Boinks TV people that will allow manual control of a webcam, but I don't know that it's universal. So I'm a little hesitant to try it, given that I could just use a better camera. But I guess a $10 upgrade is less than buying a new camera or something like that. I had hoped that I would be able to use my DSLR, but it seems like the latest version of Mac OS X, Mountain Lion, doesn't like the DSLR utility for whatever reason. So that's something that's I've got to overcome. Supposedly there was an update, but that update seems not to have helped things whatsoever from my standpoint. Maybe I just need a reboot. I don't know. So I guess the first question that I was gonna no, the DSLR is USB. So there is a utility that will take the USB connection and it puts the live view up on the computer, and then I have another utility that I can take anything on the desktop and capture that. So that utility is called Minicam. Let's see here. I think it's Minicam. Yeah, Minicam. MANYCAM. So that's kind of kludgy, but it works. But there was something in the Mountain Lion upgrade that broke the utility that brings up the live view, and so since that utility is broken, I can't use that hack. So yeah, you would, but I think that video is a bit of an add-on on the DSLR. I'm not going to lie to you. The preamps are horrible. They could make some of the settings more intuitive and easier to get to, but the video is just so beautiful, you know? So, and part of that is just a really great lens. So, but it would absolutely be great if I could just use my DSLR as a webcam. Then it would be gorgeous. And I could just string a long USB cable to wherever I need it, because my filming locations so far are here and here. And over here is maybe 3 feet, 5 or 6 feet from here. So that would be pretty cool. So, someone asked me if you could subscribe to any of these things that I'm doing as podcasts, and Church or Tech Help for Churches, which is Monday's show, and Technobabble, which is Thursday's show, are both available in iTunes. So you do a search for Tech Help for Churches, all spelled the normal way, no numbers in that or anything like that, and you'll come up with Tech Help for Churches. Technobabble is spelled like Tower of Babel, which I guess depending on your pronunciation could be Babel. But it's the root word for Babylon, so I'm going to call it with Babel. It makes for a nice pun, and that is spelled like this. Here, I don't even know if that's legible. Let me see here. And of course, my mouse is in the way. Yeah, that's how it's spelled. So that's TECHNOBABEL. If you wanted to subscribe to that. Another question I had, I can't remember if I've answered this, but someone was asking if if it was possible to piggyback off of a signal that they sent to their projector to get basically two feeds, one to the projector and one to a stage monitor? And the answer is, well, it depends. What they were suggesting, it absolutely wouldn't work whatsoever. They were going to come out HDMI from the computer, go HDMI to the projector using a Balun or something, because HDMI doesn't like going over 10 meters without either a really good cable, a Balun, some sort of amplifier, or some combination of those things. And so they were going to go to their projector, and then after that, they were thinking that they could come out of the projector with VGA and go from the VGA output onto a stage monitor. And that, of course, wouldn't work at all, because there's, at least not in the projectors that I've ever worked with, was there a digital to analog converter built into the projector. It was just whatever came in was whatever came out. So if you put VGA, well, when I say VGA, I mean a signal that runs on a VGA cable. I don't mean 640 by 480. If you put that signal into a projector's VGA port, then there's typically a loop out VGA that can replicate that and have it come out the other end of the projector. But it's not the case that you can go digital into the projector and come out analog. So that was another question. Third thing, I have added on trinitydigitalmedia.com/live, I've added a schedule of events, which are, it's a list that comes from a Google Calendar. And that's actually something that might be very helpful for churches that are using WordPress as their back end for their website. So the plugin that does that, here, let me take a look at it so I get it, because it was a free plugin, and it's nice that you can do both a regular calendar and also a list of events. So let me take a look at that. Let's see here. Go to the dashboard. By the way, Chris, thanks for sharing on the Church Tech group. Very helpful. Let's see here. So this plugin that I have just installed is called Google Calendar Events, and it's free. So if your church has a back end that needs an updated list of events, just you can use Google Calendar as an interface that just about anyone can add to. And so you could have a single Google Calendar for the church, or you could have multiple calendars. But you could have one of your administrators that updates the events. Maybe the pastor does it, maybe the youth pastor, children's pastor, whatever. And you can have either individual calendars, or you can have a master calendar that has everything on it. And they just update the Google Calendar, and then it automatically updates on the web page, which is pretty cool that you don't have to bother someone with learning another interface, because Google Calendar is actually fairly easy. And WordPress isn't hard, it's just different, So, and that's something else else. So, yeah, I'm still on the lookout to see if there are any other church tech streaming networks out there. I know that Brad at Church Media Design does some streaming. The guys at Church Tech Talk used to while they were still doing their thing. But I don't know of anyone that's streaming as much as I am. So if anyone knows of anyone who is, I would love to know about it. Always have some questions for someone who's gone before, and it's possible that I'm the one who's gone before, and other people will join me. So I just don't know about that. I guess it's also possible that someone had this idea, did it for a few years, and stopped, and that's why I can't find anything currently. So, yeah. I think I mentioned yesterday that I'd talked to some people in South Africa who might join us live here from time to time, and that makes me very happy. Just the idea that I can have basically an international TV station from my home office in Nicholasville, Kentucky, just outside of Lexington. That's kind of amazing. I've said it a couple of times this week that I love living in the 21st century. You know, I can walk around and have several books at my disposal on my Kindle. I can shoot beautiful video that I could show on any television station with my DSLR, and I can stream live. And that's kind of amazing to me. So, I guess this kind of reminds me of when I was in college and I was doing college radio. Ooh, welcome guest, whatever your name is. Let me go ahead and I'm going to type welcome. And this is, I guess in some ways this is very low budget. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but hopefully I'll continue to get better and better at it. I have plans for more. I just haven't done them yet. I'm considering talking to my church, because I don't want to do this without permission, on the weekends embedding our services, because we have a Saturday service and a Sunday service, so that anyone that wants can see what my church does and see basically how I've come to the knowledge and experience I have. I've been there since 2000, so December of 2000. So that means I'm coming up on 13 years at my church. And when I started going there, we had a couple hundred people, and now we have 4,500 weekly attendance. Although on Easter we had 10,000 between all the campuses, including our online campus, which is very great. One thing I need to do is I need to shoot a package going through all the tech of our online campus, because it's not an area that I get to volunteer in. I'm the video team leader for our Frankfort, Kentucky campus, which Frankfort is the capital of Kentucky. And so I edit the video on a weekly basis and take it up there. And we're talking about starting live streaming there, but we've got some bugs that have yet to be worked out. So hopefully soon we'll get that straightened out and we can stream live, and I won't have to edit every week. I'll just take the pieces and go, which is also very important because we're hoping to start a Cincinnati campus, and that is probably at least 2 hours hour and a half, 2 hours from our Lexington campus, so that means it would be more difficult to take the Saturday evening service. Yeah, the team that does the stream is really great. I will say that the way we do our video is kind of a hybrid IMAG broadcast model. So while IMAG is generally about, IMAG, short for image magnification, is generally about making what you would see in real life larger so you can see more details, I think it's also about sight lines, because sometimes it's not necessarily that you need it to be larger to see. Instead, what you need is a better angle to see, and the same size is perfectly acceptable. Sometimes even a wider shot is acceptable if it's just gives you the scope of things. So, since we have been streaming live for a while, and before that we had it was live and on the same campus but in a smaller room. In some ways it was video overflow, but it had its own live worship and live host and everything, so it was kind of prep for our satellite campus. And so we were, that's how we started all that, is we didn't have enough room in our main auditorium, so we started basically a live feed to a satellite room, and that was fairly easy to do, just run a cable. But from that taught us a lot of lessons for the live satellite, or not the live satellite, the pre-recorded satellite campus. So hopefully soon it'll be live. I guess it has taught us some lessons for the live satellite campus when we actually go live. So, let's see here. What other questions have I had this week that I haven't answered, or that I have? Oh, looks like guest went ahead and left. That's okay. I think I'm ready to recommend to anyone that wants to think about that they really ought to stream their services. I've just seen like a 100% increase in my site since I started live streaming, and as my pastor says, we don't care about numbers except that every number is a person. So that's part of why we started our satellite campus at my church, is because if every number is a person, we want to reach the most people. It's not the case that, like he used this analogy, think of if you had 3 kids. If you go to the store, you're not happy just that you leave with 3 kids, you want to leave with your 3 kids. And to the heart of God, it's not that he has 1 billion kids and he's just happy that he has that number. No, each one is special to him. And so anything we can do to help rescue his lost kids, we want to. So that's why we're doing a satellite campus. And that's why I'm happy that my numbers have increased on my website, because I want to be a resource to help churches reach more and more people. not so that they have bigger budgets, but just because people really matter. They're really the only thing that matters ultimately is people. So I think that there are churches all over the world that would love to use these tools but don't know where to start. That's the crazy thing about basically everything in your life. Everything that you do, there was a time before you did it. Some of these things, you don't know exactly how to get started, right? So if you start a business and you've never started one before, you might not know exactly how to get started. Well, I think tech in church is the same way. Sometimes you just don't know how to get started, or you don't know how to get started with a particular aspect. So that's why I want to be a resource so that I can help people get started with whatever the particular aspect is that they need. So, shut down that page. Yeah, good to hear, Chris, that for those of you not in the chat, Chris is saying that his church has about 15% larger attendance every week because of the streaming audience. And I think that there are two audiences, maybe three. Let's think through this. Two or three audiences that your church would reach with the live stream. And the first is, of course, people that wouldn't be able to go to your church for some reason or another. In the old days, we called older people shut-ins if they couldn't leave their church, or leave their home, rather. So that's one demographic. There's also people that, for some reason, like your church but don't live anywhere near it. And I'm not saying they shouldn't find a church that's closer, and I'm not saying that maybe they shouldn't move to get to your church. I've actually encouraged some people to move to go to our church, which really sounds crazy, but I don't think it is. I think that if your relationship to Jesus really matters and you see him doing something incredible in a particular location, I think that's an opportunity to join that, even if it's something crazy like moving. So I think that's another group of people who, for whatever reason, don't live in close proximity to your church. A third demographic would be people who normally go to your church, but for whatever reason, they're not there that week. So I know when we go on vacation or we visit relatives, I really like bringing up the live stream and not missing out on the Sunday. It's just one of the things that I really enjoy doing. And I like engaging in the live chat. It's a nice way to talk about what's going on. I think in some ways the live chat on a streaming worship service is it's perhaps like a community group or a small group, maybe not to the level of intimacy, but you can talk about what's going on in the message as it's going on. And that's not really something that you can do live and in person. I think it's, occasionally I'll talk to people that get offended about something that the pastor says because they misunderstood it. And it was something that was absolutely possible to misunderstand. It's certainly the case that nobody's perfect, and communication is far from an easy thing to do. So, and it's absolutely possible that someone could be offended by something that they're just offended by. They understand it completely. But it's this other group of people that are offended by the thing that they didn't understand. Not because they're unintelligent, it's just the way it was stated. You could hear it one of two ways and they heard it the other way. That happens all the time. My pastor tells a joke and he's not being serious, and people laugh, but you might think, well, maybe he is serious. He's just trying to pass that off like he's not. No, he wasn't being serious. And so you can talk about things like that. I really think that that's one of the advantages of a chat over even being there live sometimes, is clarification and understanding. There's a friend of mine who's really struggling because he's had a bunch of bad experience, so the lens that he looks at church through is through a lens that's kind of stilted, kind of jaded, or, he thinks it's possible that the people in the church are meaning bad things when if there's, I've said a lot, I need to work on that. When there are two possible interpretations, he always takes the bad one. And then later on he clarifies and finds out that that's not what the person meant at all. And that wasn't the heart behind it. And there are people like that that really need to clarify. So that's yet another situation where having a streaming worship service could actually really, really help people. So those are just a few of the things that I've noticed personally. Let's see here. I guess I'm running out of ideas to talk about. This Friday show is meant to be a less formal show. A lot of Q&A whenever I can have it. Ideas that I can share whenever I have them. And stuff like that. I'm going to check Twitter, since I asked people to write in if they have any questions, and see if anyone did. Okay, it looks like I got a follow Friday from someone, but no other questions. That's good. Now, we'll take a look and see what traffic is this week as compared to last week. Just because, as I say, this is partially a test to see if this streaming thing is worthwhile, which so far I think that it has been. But last week I was out of town for a freelance gig, so my traffic went from it went down about 50% from Thursday to Friday. And today, my traffic yesterday was right on, it was one less person than it was a week ago Thursday. So basically the same. Statistically identical. So I'm curious if I have higher traffic. Okay, so the live recording, we actually use I can't remember what the software is right now. Initially we used Final Cut Pro 7. We have a Kona capture card that plugs into a couple of Mac Pros that we have. So we had, I believe, HDSDI running into those two Mac Pros for redundancy's sake, and that was a feed from the board, the video switcher that we use, and so we were just capturing those two. Initially there was, we kind of had a strange situation where we had a staff media director who spec'd out the entire thing for our current building and then left before it was completed. So as such, one of his specs didn't quite work out. I don't know if he didn't finish reading or whatever, but he had a recording mechanism that wasn't at all easy to edit. So we could have recorded this service, but then that would have been it. So that was a bit of a problem. It might be from the Kona card software. I guess that's possible. I can't remember off the top of my head what the software is that we record, but we've got two Mac Pros that do it. So that's how we do the recording. In general, our setup for video is we have 4 live cameras, 2 in the back for near follow, wide follow, 1 either on stage or in front of the stage, and that is kind of our roving camera. And then we have 1 in the balcony that provides wide shots, transitional elements. That's kind of the entry point. For video playback and for lyrics, we use ProPresenter 5, and we have 2 stations. One station is someone who just does lyrics and message notes. We have another station that is just video playback. So that way, if one of those machines has issues, no big deal. We can always go to the second in a pinch. We also have a very large back screen, which is, I want to say 40 feet tall, and it's 16 by 9, so whatever that is width-wise. And that is run by a Coolux system, the Pandora's box, which I believe is what Willow Creek uses. Yeah, for our satellite campus, I also have 2, they're iMacs, but 2 iMacs running ProPresenter 5 as well. And I do the same thing. Is I've got one that primarily does video and one that primarily does lyrics. Where it's different in our satellite campus is that I try and, because the message video is so very important, and my pastor's long-winded, so it might be an hour of him speaking, where the video is so very important, I have 2 copies of that, one on both machines, and I sync them up, so in case one of the machines crashes, I can go to the other. So I think I have had to do that once or twice in the 5 years that we've had that campus open, but it was absolutely good that I had that when that happened. So I have a confidence monitor at the back of the room that comes from my lyrics computer, so that's why I have a lyrics computer. So that way, if there's a video element that's going on during a performed song, I can give lyrics to the people on stage, and I can absolutely play the video from that computer if they want the video instead of the lyrics, which happens from time to time. So, and I run that all through an analog way octafade, so that enables me to switch between those 2 computers. Audio comes off of those computers analog and goes into a small Behringer mixer and then into our board. So I have the audio running full gain, basically line level, over to the main digital audio board. And initially what I was doing is I was turning the pot down when I didn't want audio from one of the 2 Macs. I have recently changed to using the keyboard shortcut for mute and unmute, because I can glance on the computer screen, which is where my eyes are normally, and tell immediately if the audio is up or down. So that is, I guess that's basically our setup in Frankfurt, and it is very helpful. And I recommend to everyone to go ahead and get the site license for ProPresenter if you possibly can, because as long as you have more than one computer in the church that might possibly run ProPresenter, it's worth having. It's really nice to be able to have it on multiple computers, also have the children's ministry and the youth ministry or the student ministry, whatever you call it, all using the same software, because if they have questions, they can ask the big room, and vice versa. And I think that that's really impressive. Speaking of ProPresenter, I do have some tutorials on my YouTube channel. Let me go ahead and get a link to that. I think I've got a bit.ly link, actually. Let me see. I don't know what's going on with my video, or with my bandwidth here. It looks like the download is iffy. Let's see here. ProPresenter. Good. So my well, thanks, Chris. Yeah, just here's a shortcut to that. http://bit.ly/pro5tuts. Pro5tuts, short for tutorials. And that'll take anyone there if they need to do timers or anything like that. So that's helpful, I find, a lot of the time. I know my stuff isn't necessarily as good as Brad's at I'm blanking. churchmediadesign.tv. Church Media Design, he's just great. And I think that he did his tutorials as a result of helping with renewed vision, like they asked him to or something like that. That's at least how it seems. And mine are just, this is the stuff that I use all the time. And occasionally people will ask questions, and I'm more than happy to answer those. And sometimes make a screencast if it's something that I haven't done before. So, let me think. Are there any other questions? Sometimes I find that just asking the question helps me think of another question. Hi to Jason, if you are still tuned in. It looks like you were for a while. Maybe you were the guest. That would be pretty cool. And thanks, Chris. I will enjoy my weekend. It's the reason I do what I do during the week, is because on the weekends I get to be part of the team that impacts lives and eternities. You know, I've said it before, and 25,000 people have come to know Jesus through the ministry of my church. That is such a big number, I can't even really wrap my mind around it. And there's so much more to do. So, anyway, you have a great weekend, and anyone else watching, everyone, go out and change eternity.